I don't think, like YC is this amazing blend of, they're very supportive and they obviously want you to succeed, but they also give it to you very real and they tell you when you're being a dumbass, which I think is, that's what we all need in life. So yeah, that was, I think, the story till then I was 19, started Scale, and the rest is history.
I guess you work with Jared Friedman at the time, and you came in with actually a very different idea than what ended up becoming Scale.
Yeah, so we wanted to build like an AI agent, funnily enough, to help people like get medical care, and it was like it was a great example of an idea that I think will ultimately exist. Like I think we're even seeing it now. Like AI agents to help people get medical care are very real, but it was the wrong timing, and we worked on it for about a month or two before Jared pulled us aside and we're like, guys, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere. And that's exactly what we needed to hear. And it was at that time when I had studied AI at MIT, I had like trained models, and we sort of went back to the drawing board, thought deeply about where the opportunity was, and came up with Scale.
I guess selling data at the time, large language models were had not really come to the fore yet, but self-driving cars were sort of coming up, and computer vision suddenly became, so that was sort of the first market, is that right?
Yeah, so the story here is that when I was at MIT, I did a bunch of projects to train models of various forms. And these were by comparison today, they're like little toy models. And I remember to train a model, I needed three things. I needed a GCP account, I needed an account on some cloud service to get compute. I needed the code to run, to actually train the model, and I needed data. I needed a data set. And for two out of these three things, you could just press a button online and get them. And then for the last one, for data, there was no effective way to get data for training these models. And so it felt incredibly obvious that this was going to be the future, that there was going to be a way to, press a button, so to speak, and get data. And it was very funny because in the years that followed, in the first many years of Scale, data was very unsexy still. Every time we would go out to fundraise, even though our numbers were great and we had great revenue, VCs and investors would always be very skeptical. They'd be like, oh, I don't know if this is a good business, does it have longevity, is this durable? And it was really weird to me, but none of the investors had ever trained a model, so I guess they didn't really get it. And fast forward to today, we managed to raise money, we managed to keep going, managed to keep growing the business, but the very same investors who passed on us and were very dour on the potential of AI are writing think pieces today about how data is so critical and is one of the biggest business opportunities in AI. So it's very funny to see that whole thing come full circle.
I mean, it seems like that's actually a real good case study in first principles thinking, right? Like you can't start a company by opening the pages of the Wall Street Journal and saying, well, this data's hot, we're gonna go work on that. You literally couldn't have started Scale that way. You had to start from simple statements that are about the world that you know to be true, and then sort of building something for that.
Yeah, I think the key thing is you need to develop conviction in a set of beliefs that nobody else agrees with. I think if you look at all the most successful companies in the world, they were started at a time long before the sort of core idea was popular. And they work on that, they toil in obscurity for years and years before the idea or the space or the concept of the business becomes consensus. And the only way you're going to be successful is if you're able to identify these truths about the world early, long before everyone else. And I think that one of the most surprising things, Scale, we've been working on AI for a decade, you can't base your business decisions based on what everyone else is saying around you. If you go too much with the herd, you will get immensely confused and you will end up nowhere. And so you have to develop your own compass of what you think the future is going to look like, because everyone else will just confuse you.
It seems like one of the things you got incredibly great at was, you start with this kernel of we believe X and nobody else believes it, but then the mechanics of building the business are talking to investors and convincing them and not letting them demoralize you, talking to customers who, I mean, should just get it. And then especially like convincing people to come work for you.
Yeah, I think that these early mechanics of building a company, like these are things that I think you might have some predisposition to be good at, but like nobody is good at starting a company when they start a company. And I remember talking to a lot of the investors who I met very early on, and they, a lot of them would say like, oh, like, you just grew so quickly and you changed so quickly, and like I didn't see it at the time. And I think that's probably true for literally everyone who starts a company. Like nobody is good at something they've never done before, right? And so I think for all entrepreneurs, you start out pretty shitty at everything, and the whole game is how do you develop yourself to continuously improve, to get better, and learn quickly.
Backstage, we were talking about this is actually a really lucky time to start a company because, obviously you can come do YC. The people in this room have each other, which is kind of wild. But not only that, now you have ideally a personal AI that's going to tell you, hey, these are some ways to do it. Do you think that would have helped you, like, accelerate even faster? Like, what do you think it's like to start a company today with AI, in the age of AI?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're at this like amazing moment in the world where the bottleneck is not the progress of the AI models. The bottleneck is diffusing that through the rest of the world and helping the world adapt to this amazing technology that already exists. Like, I think if the models didn't improve at all from today, there would still be like decades and decades of like total upheaval and change in the economy and how the world operates and everything around us. And so I think it's, as a result, it's like one of the most incredible, it's probably a like once in a civilization opportunity to be a dreamer and to have a vision and to have ambition and to impose a view of how the future world should look by building something amazing. One of the things that we were chatting about, backstage is, when I started Scale, or 10 years ago, if you started a company, you had to be, it was like David versus Goliath, and you had to be clever, and you had to find like an angle into the market, and you had to sort of like figure out a way to compete, even though you had much fewer resources. And now I actually think with the power of agents and AI broadly speaking, it's much closer to Goliath versus Goliath. Like I think, but maybe the startup is like a mecha Goliath that is like vastly enhanced